And we're back with another 2-minute drill on 1520 The Ticket. I'm Scott Matthews with Frank Spaeth. Frank, did you wake up Monday morning expecting to see Terry Ryan let go as general manager of the Minnesota Twins?
No, that was a big surprise. I mean, big changes coming to Twins territory potentially, right? I mean, he's been with the Twins organization since 1972 as a player, couple times general manager now, executive of the year a couple of times.
Yeah.
And yet here we are, 2016, and they've let him go, replaced him temporarily anyway with their assistant general manager.
Did you expect them to do it this early, though, in the season, or did you expect them to, quote-unquote, resign at the end of the 2016 season?
You know what? If I'm honest, I'm surprised it took this long. I feel like they've been playing a little bit better as of late. I mean, I would have thought if they were going to get rid of him, they would have either pulled the trigger earlier or they would have seen the season through at this point and then looked for somebody new next season. Because there's only 2 more weeks of the trading deadline. So now you've got an interim GM, former assistant general manager, Rob Anthony. Now he's the one that's going to be pulling the strings, and you never know what's going to go on now, right?
Yeah, the timing of it is very strange. So it just makes you wonder. Like you mentioned, the Twins, they won 7 of their last 10 games going into the All-Star break. So they've turned a corner.
Yeah, they're starting to make some strides. They're starting to head in the right direction. Sure, this season is done. I mean, they're not going to catch up. They're not going to get themselves in contention for anything this year, right? But at least they're starting to play a little bit better. So I think the timing was surprising because, I would either pull the trigger sooner or at this point you ride out the season and then you bring in all new fresh people to start a new season and try to bring in that air of positivity for next year.
And you bring up a solid point there. Do they clean house? I mean, does Paul Molitor stay as manager? Because every time you bring in a new GM, they want their guys.
Yeah, and I think it's tough because I think with both Terry Ryan and potentially Paul Molitor, you can put some of the blame on those guys, but at the end of the day, it's the guys going out and playing baseball every day that aren't doing their job.
Yep.
And with Terry Ryan, you can't say all of a sudden he's lost his mojo, can you? I mean, he had a lot of success his first time through. How does it all go so wrong in one season? And is it a GM's fault? But still, I mean, how does it all go from pretty good to so wrong so fast?
Yeah, I mean, Terry, he's had some good trades, great trades, but as of late, he's made more bad trades, and I think that's what ultimately bit him right in the butt. I think, signing Ricky Nolasco, that was iffy. Giving Phil Hughes an extension after 1 season in our colors, Dozier struggling, Mauer not being Mauer. I mean, it's a handful of things. You're right. It's absolutely the player's fault that the GM had to go. But ultimately, he's making the decisions. He's putting pen to paper and bringing these guys in.
Right. So, I mean, the next big question, other than, timing, is now what? You wouldn't think you'd pull this without having some idea who you're going to replace this guy with, right? I mean, do you think they know? If so, who do you think it is? I mean, I have no idea who it would be that they'd pull the trigger on to replace him now.
Well, we love to bring in former Twins players. So what's Denny Hawking doing these days?
Right.
He was the man to do everything back in the day. Really, I mean, there's no Billy Beans out there. There's no Theo Epstein floating around out there. There's no big names that jump right off the paper and go, yeah, that's who they should go get.
You know who I think would be somebody to consider, and this is way out of the box, all right?
Okay.
So we went up to the Twins fantasy camp for radio affiliates not even a month ago.
Right.
And had a really interesting, candid, frank conversation with Jack Morris.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, he had some definite ideas about what he would do. So maybe they go rogue or something, right? Go crazy and bring in somebody like that as the GM, and let's see what he would do. He had lots of ideas for really changing the look of this roster, and maybe that's what it takes. If they're serious about really changing things, maybe they go that way and they still go in-house. Not that Jack Morris would ever want the job.
Yep.
But it might be worth it to just float it out there and see what happens.
Just to see if he'll bite.
Right, exactly. I know, it's crazy, but crazier things have happened.
And as tight of purse strings as the Pohlads have, say that 5 times fast,
right.
Jack Morris would be relatively cheap because he's not a big name.
Right.
So you wouldn't have to pay him that much money. So maybe they'd go the cheap route. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they put him in there and put him in charge right now. Because like I say, I thought some of his ideas were really valid. And he's got a couple weeks to pull some of that stuff off. He's got some good connections throughout the league because he wasn't just a Twin. He played, a couple other places besides Minnesota.
He was in Detroit, yep.
Exactly, Detroit, Toronto. He's got some other connections. It might not be that bad a deal. It might not be that big of a stretch.
No. And out-of-the-box thinking is what we need right now. The Twins' way is dead. I think we can all agree on that. You just got to think outside the box at this point.
Yep. And, right. And that loyalty's there, obviously, to an extent. But at some point, it comes down to winning games. And they're not doing it. And the players that are on this team right now don't seem either A, capable or B, interested to do it. So something big's got to happen. This is a start, but it's a surprise as to it's happening now. And I think it's a surprise that they don't have a ready-made replacement for him.
I hope they find a big name, and I hope they do it the right way.
I just hope they find somebody who's going to turn things around for this franchise.
Yeah, because losing 4 of the last 5 seasons, 80, 90-plus games, isn't going to cut it anymore. We got to get this back in the winning track, and hopefully the Poleheads make the right decision. So there we go. That's going to do for this edition of the 2-Minute Drill on 1520 The Ticket. You can like us on Facebook if you haven't already, 1520 The Ticket, and online. We also got lots of local stories up there, 1520theticket.com. Frank, we'll talk to you next time. Hopefully more positive news.
Yeah, definitely. Terry Ryan, Twins GM, no more.